Hey, it's David. Welcome to A Changed Mind, a sanctuary for your spirit, a place where each and every episode I remind you of the certainty of the goodness of the future. I am your friend, your host, your guide, David Bayer. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a formula for literally dissolving any problem or challenge that you are experiencing today. We all experience challenges on a daily basis. It might be a new challenge. Something shows up in your workplace, a conflict, an argument, somebody who is not in agreement with you and you're frustrated about it. It might be a chronic challenge, like a chronic health challenge, or tired of living in financial insecurity, or you've been asking to know what your purpose is in life for a long, long time. Doesn't matter what it is, but you have the capacity as a powerful creator to actually dissolve and move through the challenges. And I'm going to talk to you about why the challenge has been remaining, even though you've been wanting it to go. And the truth is that you have the ability to actually walk through life dissolving any conflict in your way. It kind of reminds me of my favorite Marvel character, which is Doctor Strange. And if you want to master the mystical arts and sciences of manifestation, you're absolutely going to love this episode. So there is, in my opinion, one of two top spiritual and personal development teachers today, and that is Abraham Hicks. If you don't know Abraham, if you are an Abraham fan and you're following in on the episode on YouTube, give Abraham a shout out. If you don't know Abraham, Abraham is a group of non-physical entities or information that a woman named Esther Hicks channels. She's been doing this for about 30 years. And the information that Abraham shares around law of attraction manifestation is some of the best. And while it oftentimes starts to feel like really like a one-trick pony, that's because the root cause of everything that you're wanting to materialize is around this idea of attraction and energy and frequency. Abraham does a great job of explaining it in so many different ways so that it can sink in for people who get into Abraham's work. And so I'm a big Abraham fan. What I'm going to be sharing with you is a 4-part framework that Abraham taught in David speak, so David's explanation, so that you can actually use this in your life to overcome a challenge that you're facing right now. And I want you to think about a challenge. Just, bring it to mind, whatever it is. Maybe it's some relationship friction. Maybe it's the fact that you haven't been in a relationship for a long, long time and you're tired of kissing frogs and you want to find your soulmate. Whatever it is, there's a 4-part framework for dissolving and moving through the problem. And these are the 4 parts. I'm going to go through each of them with you. Number 1, contrast. 2, variety. 3, harmony. And 4, balance. And so this is the actual evolution of the problem and how you have the ability to transform the problem. Now, everything that's showing up in your life, let's call it a problem, is just an experience. Yes, we can be in agreement on that, right? I listed out a bunch of different experiences that you might be having right now, but because you don't like the experience, we label it with this thing called problem, a word called problem. So let's just realize that problems are experiences. They are circumstances or situations. What Abraham relabels them as is contrast. So Abraham talks about contrast and preferences. When you have an experience that you like, it's a preference. When you have an experience that you don't like, it's a contrast. And Abraham explains that the contrast is actually necessary to the expansion of your own life. Abraham goes so far as to say the contrast is what drives the expansion of the universe, meaning problems drive the expansion of the universe. Why? Because the moment that you experience the contrast or a problem, what gets activated within you is a vibration for the opposite, which is really the desire. Stick with me for a second. If you experience a contrast, like pain in your body, immediately what becomes active in your nervous system, whether you're aware of it or not, and gets signaled out to the quantum field, the universe, God, however you choose to relate to it, is the desire for well-being in your body. When we see, for example, at a global level, things that none of us like, well, most of us don't like, a handful of people do because they profit from it, like wars or armed conflict, we see those things, we have a reaction, and let's call it a negative emotional reaction to that contrast or that problem or that experience that we don't like in the world. What immediately becomes active within all of us is the desire for peace and harmony. And we create that potential in the field. So whenever you have a desire, you're creating that potential in the field. And the field is always manifesting your future. And so I'll give you one more example. As you're experiencing financial insecurity, maybe as you were growing up and you saw your parents struggling with money, or maybe now you are struggling with money and you feel like maybe money is scarce. that's your experience, what becomes active in your nervous system and gets communicated to the field and immediately begins to start materializing into your reality is financial abundance and prosperity. And so you can think of it as everything that we want finds its roots in the problems that we experience that are the opposite of what we want. And so what's happening in your life right now is that not only are you creating your own reality, so all of the experiences that are showing up in your life are reflecting back to you when you meet them, your belief systems. Isn't that incredible? Like that's, people say to me, how do I become aware of the thinking I'm not aware of if I'm creating my own reality and I want to change my reality? And my answer is, well, pay attention to the experiences that you don't like, what Abraham would call the contrast, and notice what you think about them. Because that experience or the problem is not what's creating the thinking inside of you. That thinking's been around for a long time and it's actually manifesting or materializing this experience that you don't like. And so you're having your own lived experience and you're creating your own reality. But guess what? You're bumping up against 8 billion other realities that are materializing at the same time. We're in this collective experience, team planet Earth, right? Team human beings. So you run into someone else's reality that they're creating, and there are parts of what they're creating that you don't like. And that helps you get clear on what you do like. And so this is why Abraham says it's actually problems. If human beings are powerful creators that are on the leading edge of actually materializing the physical world or reality because our thoughts become things, then it's problems that are actually inspiring all of the new emergences and realities that are creating a beautiful planet, that are creating things that we want. Yeah. So step 1 is contrast. And step 2 is variety. So this is where you stop seeing the problem as a problem, but you realize that problems catalyze desires. Now, we haven't gotten to, okay, but what do I do about the problem yet? Don't worry about it. It'll be a natural byproduct of this conversation. But like, okay, Dave, I experience things that I call problems, and what I'm wanting you to relabel them as is variety. So they are the seeds of variety. In fact, they only show up as a problem for a short period of time unless you continue to pay attention to the problem. And this is the challenge with most human beings, is that because of the way our nervous system is built, because we have a slant towards the sympathetic expression of the nervous system, fight or flight and survival, we tend to focus on problems, right? Thinking that that's actually going to help us avoid the problem. And we're even taught that. We're taught that by our parents. We're taught that in business. We're taught that by medicine. We're taught that in every aspect of our life. It's like, let's just find the problem and wrestle the problem to the ground. And that's how you get rid of the problem. But what we're actually wanting to do is allow the solution to emerge. This is how much God loves us, is God says, hey, I don't even need you to deal with the problem. Just don't try to wrestle it to the ground. Otherwise, you're holding on to it and the solution cannot emerge. So we start out with contrast, right, which are things that we don't like. But with this knowingness that we are now establishing together in this conversation, we can go, wait a minute, this problem really isn't a problem. This problem is the mechanism by which desires emerge. This is helping me get clear on what I want. This is helping me get clear on what I want to create in my life. And the beautiful thing about it is that I don't even have to do anything. The moment I experience a problem, there's a flare that goes off from my nervous system that's received by the field, and the field is immediately working to coordinate and create synchronicities and coincidences, the solution that I desire. I talk about this in other episodes, a 5-step process for manifestation. You can check it out. I'll have the team put it in the show notes of this episode. But you have contrast, which is the problem, but contrast becomes variety. So, okay, got it. Like, there's something showing up in my life. I'll give you a recent example. For me, we went through a hiring process a while ago, and we hired a new team member. And after a very short period of time, it was clear that team member wasn't going to work out. And now I could have continued to hang on to the problem, but what I realized was that through that experience, I became even clearer on the type of person I wanted for that role. And so that's helping with the expansion of my desire, the fine tuning. I'm placing a more specific order with the universe, right, of what I want. And there's a higher power functioning here that ultimately knows my long-term plans and knows that I need to calibrate my desires I need to build in my nervous system some new preferences. And so it or he delivers to me something that will actually spark that within me. So now we've got contrast and variety, right? Variety because we're all having different desires. We're all creating different things. We're creating this portfolio of experiences on planet Earth. Some things you'll like that other people are creating. Some things you won't like. Some things people will like that you've created. Some things they won't like, but that's okay. It's variety. Now, what do? We're now observing the production of variety on Earth. It occurs as a result of contrasted experiences. And if we're willing to actually not wrestle the problem to the ground by thinking it's a problem, and we're willing to step back, we see that the problem itself will resolve. So resolution is a natural part of this, and that's harmony, the third piece. So we go from contrast to variety to harmony, right? So the problem that shows up will transform into the solution unless we entangle and hold on to the problem. Then it can't dimensionally shift if we do that. And so if we know that a problem is really just a part of the process of variety, we can step back from it. A lot of times the business plan that I give some of my high-performing entrepreneurs when they're trying to solve a problem, their business is stuck, or they're in some sort of chronic cycle of challenge, is to actually just step away from it. Go for a walk, take a vacation, take a bubble bath, go play with your furry friend, whatever you enjoy doing. Call up a friend and, go have a cup of coffee, go back to a 12-step meeting, get back to church or temple, whatever it is, like step away from the problem and the problem will resolve. And people go, well, that sounds kind of Pollyanna-ish. And it's like, no, it's actually understanding how energy works. It's understanding how the observer effect works in quantum physics. If you continue paying attention to the problem will persist. So we don't actually solve the problem by trying to solve the problem. We solve the problem by stepping away from it. And then this naturally occurring phenomenon called harmony will occur, where the problem will reorganize into a solution. We see this, for example, with, a war on terror. Has it gotten rid of terror? No. A war on drugs. Has it gotten rid of drugs? No. Whatever it is. A war on what? Homelessness. Is it going to get rid of homelessness? No. Even the war against the people who we think are putting the war on us, like there's this new war on totalitarian control, or the war against media, or the war against the military-industrial complex, that's actually not going to change things. What changes things is living from a powerful state. What changes things is knowing that all problems come to pass and that we have a particular role in this. Our role is not to solve the problem. Our role is to step back and allow the contrast to be a part of the ever-expanding portfolio of variety, to observe it or to step away from it and allow harmony to occur. So how does harmony occur? Well, thoughts and ideas become active in the field that will find their way to you, and you will take action, and you'll look backwards and say, this is how I solved the problem. But you didn't solve the problem by solving the problem. You solved the problem by stepping back and living in a powerful state, by like doing something that allowed you to live in your joy. And when you're living in this problem-centric reality where you have to kill the problem, you can't live in your joy. You just entangle with the problem. Or other people will show up and the solution will emerge. We describe the solution emerging as solving the problem. I think that's not actually an appropriate description. It's allowing the problem to transform into the solution. Or a lot of times, if you step away from whatever you perceive the problem is, what we're calling the contrast here, it just solves itself. Hey, it's David. Just a quick interruption to your regularly scheduled episode by your favorite sponsor, moi. I want to tell you about my book. It is available on Amazon right here, right now. A Changed Mind, Go Beyond Self-Awareness, Rewire Your Brain, and Re-Engineer Your Reality. In this little book are all the frameworks, the tools, the methodologies that I talk about on this show and that I've used to actually change my mind, and that tens of thousands of other people have used to transform their bank accounts, their businesses, their relationships, their health, their spiritual connection, everything that you want to achieve. This is the way to achieve it. And Amazon has done us a good one right now. It's significantly discounted. So you can go and pick up your copy, or better yet, pick up a copy for a friend too. There's nothing better than giving the gift of transformation right now. Hop on over to Amazon. There's a link in the show notes. And if you love the book as much as I loved writing it for you, do me a favor, let me know that and leave a review. And now, back to your regularly scheduled episode. I hear story after story after story of people who are trying to solve a problem, which is they want to have a child, but they haven't been able to have a child, right? That's the contrast is I haven't been able to have a child. That builds desire in me. That desire is part of the unfolding of variety in the world, right? Some people want to have children. Some people don't want to have children. Some people want to have 2 children. Some people, whatever it is. And then when it doesn't happen fast enough, that contrast variety process becomes a problem. And there are people who will sell you solutions to your problem. So you have in vitro fertilization as a solution. And this is not a commentary around in vitro fertilization, but both in our lives, my wife and I, in so many other stories, I've heard people who do in vitro fertilization and it fails and fails and fails and fails. They finally give up and they resolve themselves to the fact that, well, maybe I wasn't meant to have a child and maybe I can just be happy otherwise. They step away from the problem. Well, what happens? They get pregnant. So contrast, variety, harmony. It's how the problem turns into the solution. I tell a story back in the day when I had a digital marketing company. And I did domain development. I would acquire the license to really valuable domain names, and I would build businesses on top of them. And I had a business partner for one of them, and he was a nightmare. And every year he'd threaten to sue me. He'd say I was lying about the financials and the numbers. He and his accountant and his lawyer would just start to dog attack me. And finally, like 5 years into it, as I was getting into this work, my wife was like, well, why don't you just apply what you're teaching here? Just ignore the guy. I'm like, I can't ignore the guy, then he'll sue me. But like, sure as shit, like he was coming after me in another cycle of attack. I just ignored him and he literally went away. A few weeks later, a former employee of mine said, hey, would you be interested in selling the license to the domain? Which, by the way, was an idea my wife had suggested. She's like, why don't you just get out of this business and like sell the license? I'm like, sweetheart, you don't understand. Nobody would want to buy the license to a domain. They don't even own the website. This guy does, and he's crazy. Well, it turned out that this one employee that I had was the one employee I had that got along with this crazy dude. They both like to hunt and fish and kill shit. And so I sold him the license, and the domain owner approved of it. Like I made $500,000 out of a problem. But it went from contrast to variety to harmony, not by me trying to solve the problem, but by me stepping back. And so that's how this process works. And then what occurs is this 4th step, which is balance, right? So then you have balance in your life. There's a reestablishment of balance. And then guess what? New contrast shows up. Like another thing will show up that you don't like. That's okay. It's part of the spawning of variety, both in your life and in all of our collective realities. If you don't wrestle the problem to the ground and you actually understand that there is no problem, harmony emerges, which is the solution, right? It's a reestablishment of what you actually wanted in the first place through what was the perceived problem, through the contrast. And then there's a rebalancing. And so this happens over and over and over and over again. And what can feel tricky is it's happening in multiple dimensions of your life simultaneously. So you might have 12 contrasts that you experience in a single day. And that's where it can start to feel overwhelming. And when we try to solve every single contrast or problem by killing the problem, that's where we become exhausted and it becomes a useless endeavor. But when you can rise above playing the game that way, and you can understand that problems are not problems, problems are just a temporary emergence of something that you have decided that you don't want in order to activate what you do want through you and through the field. And then you can relax into that knowingness and allow harmony or the solution to emerge. Now you can kind of like, it's like being in the ocean, right? Like there's always waves, but imagine if you freaked out, like every time, you go out beyond the breaking waves, right? And you've just got like the ocean as it's bobbing up and down. Can you imagine like every time it bobbed up or down, you just freaked out? At some point you're like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. Let me just, I'm just floating. Then you start to enjoy it. You turn over on your back and you're floating and you're bobbing up and you're bobbing down. That's what life is supposed to be. And so it's important to understand, like, if you can imagine it in your mind's eye, it's like your life is a field of flowers, and there's always some flowers that are dying, and there's always some flowers that are being born. That's the nature of life. There's always people that are dying and people that are being born. There's always businesses that are dying and businesses that are being born. It's like one of those, if you've ever seen like kind of those digital representations of mandalas, where it's like these geometric shapes that are always changing. And there are parts of it that are always fading into the background, and there are parts of it that are always emerging into the forefront. That's the great mystery of life. It's the one living lotus blossom of our reality, and it is your life. And so when you realize that your life is always dying and being reborn, then you stop clinging to the things that are trying to die. Your problems are trying to die, but your wanting to solve the problem is keeping it alive. And I think about this for a minute. If you're hanging on to the thing right now, your financial insecurity is trying to die. The job that you hate is trying to die. The relationship friction in your relationship is trying to die, but you're carrying it around with you all day long, keeping it alive. There's some proverb, right? It's two monks. They're traveling, from far away back to wherever they're going. And they're going across the countryside, and there's a stream, and there's a woman who's trying to cross the stream, and she can't because the stream is too big for her. But in the order of these monks, one of the sacred vows is that they will not touch a woman. But one of the monks sees the woman in distress. She says, I have to get home and feed my children. I don't know what I'm going to do. He says, don't worry. He picks her up. He carries her across the stream, and he puts her down. So now they're all across to the other side of the stream. She goes on her merry way back to her family. But the other monk is staring at the monk who just picked up the woman in disbelief. So they travel for another day and another night, another day and another night. And the other monk is just thinking, I cannot believe that he just touched that woman. That's the one sacred vow that we took, was we will not touch a woman. So finally he can't handle it anymore. And after 2 days, he turns to the first monk and he says, I can't believe that you picked up that woman and carried her across the stream. And the first monk says to the second monk, I can't believe you've been carrying her for the last 2 days. And so that's what we do. We carry our problems with us in our minds. And so that disallows them from dying. It disallows us from alleviating ourselves of the problem and allowing the solution to emerge. But think about this for a second. If you're hanging on to things that are trying to die, in other words, things that are dying, then you're dying. So that's what's happening. We're like the Walking Dead. We're dying all the time because we refuse to let go of those things that are trying to leave and allow a new beautiful life to emerge. And so we never fully achieve this vibrant life that we came here to live, both in terms of spiritual attainment and spiritual growth, and also all of the material, psychological, emotional, and relational things. We never truly live because we're hanging on to those things that are dying. And the irony of all of it is the ego or fear convinces us that we're going to die if we don't wrestle the problem to the ground. So it's like this crazy cosmic joke. But if you're letting go and making space for what's coming, that's actually living. So if you let the things die that are trying to die, that's actually living. Because you're constantly, you're in a consistent allowance of new birthing to take place and emergences within your life. But you can't do that if all of your energy is going towards some impossible task of trying to solve some problem when that's not your job, right? I love it in scripture. So many times it says, like, the battle is not yours, the battle is the Lord's to fight. Like, your job is not to solve the problem. And again, I'm not talking about stick your head in the sand and don't take action when you're inspired to take action around something. But that's a very different feeling than the desperation and the hopelessness and the obsession that we have with trying to remove the problems of our life. And it's really amazing because when we can become the witness of the experiences of our life without becoming entangled, it's really majestic. Not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but if you're still with me in this episode, you're absolutely going to love this. I need to do a whole nother episode on this, but there's a magic in the space when we a power in the pause, when we take space and we allow life, God, to do what it's meant to do. It performs miracles and manifestations, which are the transformation of the problem into the solution. And so when we can live in faith that the system is loving and constantly functioning for us, we are in serenity, we are in peace, we are in harmony. And Jesus talks about this in the Sermon on the Mount. Like, one of the greatest qualities that we could have is serenity. It's required for spirituality. And you can only have that serenity if you change your mind and your mindset around what's your role and what's God's role. But the material world is the last mile. That's like the effect. The root cause is actually in the space. And the space is constantly forming and reforming the material world. It's constantly regurgitating and rebirthing the material world. I was sitting in my jacuzzi the other night and I was looking up at the universe. Like I'm not in it. I'm looking up at the universe. There it is. And I see the stars and I'm like, wow, this is crazy, man, because I mean, I'm not an expert or anything, but I think, the stars are kind of like our sun. And that means like around all those stars are like also planets. There's like solar systems. And I was thinking about our solar system and I'm like, we pay so much attention to the planets and the moons and the sun. But really what's amazing is the space in between, the space that's coordinating everything, right? Like if you think about it, every planet or moon or the sun itself has a gravitational pull based on its mass. And these are invisible forces that are coordinating the rotation of all of the planets, the orbiting of all the planets. Like, and somehow it all works in coordination, collaboration. Like last time I checked, one of our planets didn't hit each other. One of the moons didn't crash into a planet. The planets didn't fall into the sun. It's like, not only are they at incredible speeds rotating and orbiting around each other, but it's also hurtling through space where there's billions and trillions of other solar systems all in this intergalactic dance, this like incredible cosmic harmony that is being orchestrated by the space. So let's give the space a little bit of credit. Let's stop with our personal significance and thinking that we are the ones that have to solve the problems of our own life, and just step back a little bit and be in awe of the forces that are in the space, these operators that are informing the orchestration of the material world, whether it's the cells of our bodies, whether it's our global ecosystem. What's so incredible is like when you remove man from the equation, everything restores itself to perfect balance and perfect harmony. Solutions just emerge naturally out of the space. Cosmos in either Greek or Latin with a K, K-O-S-M-O-S, cosmos, means order or law. So like all you need to do is go out in the middle of the night and look up in the sky, and you can be reminded of the fact that you don't need to solve the problem, right? Everything is working in perfect harmony. Most of the time you just need to get out of the way. So that's that little 4-part process I wanted to share with you. 4 concepts that can completely redesign the way that you're experiencing the problems in your life right now. Contrast leads to variety, leads to harmony, leads to balance. I hope you love this episode as much as I love sharing it with you. Do me a favor, just a couple of things. Obviously I create this content because I care about you and I want us all to be on this journey together. If you're listening on the audio platforms and you haven't yet, subscribe so you get notifications when I come out with a new episode. And also leave me a rating or review. I absolutely love when I get those little notifications in the morning when I'm having my coffee from Spotify or Apple that you love this show. And 2, if you're following along in studio on YouTube, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked about what we talked about today. Let me know what you think and your ideas are. Let me know where I'm totally wrong and off base and I'm living in a Pollyanna, sparkle, sparkle, glitter, glitter world. And subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you get reminders as well. And last but not least, no matter where you're listening, if you love this episode and there's somebody that you want to share it with that comes to mind, just take a second after this episode, like, who would I really love to share this episode with, and share it with them, because it's a great way to pay it forward, because we're on this journey together. This is not a do-it-yourself project. It's a do it together. I love you so much, and I will see you in the next episode. Hey, it's David. Hop on over to davidbear.com. Click right here. There's also a link in the show notes, and sign up for our newsletter. You'll get immediate access to my free Mind Hack ebook, as well as a couple of trainings to help you master the inner game. This is a great way to stay informed and be a part of our community and be notified of special announcements. Click below, head on over to the website, get subscribed. If you loved this video, make sure you check out this one or this one, and I will see you in the next video.